Some places look calm on the surface, but Alabama doesn't bury its secrets, it lets them rot just below your feet. Towns sink, fires reignite, and things that should have stayed dead keep coming back. Lock your doors, put on your headphones, and don't stop listening, even when it gets too quiet. The silent town beneath the Warrior River. Some towns die in silence. Others keep speaking long after they've disappeared. At the bottom of the Black Warrior River, just north of Eutaw, Alabama, there's a place that doesn't show up on most maps. No signs, no plaques, no population. But Erie, Alabama, was once a thriving community, a hub of black resilience, commerce, and culture during Reconstruction. Founded in the early 1800s, Erie sat along the banks of the Warrior River, growing into a small but powerful town. It was home to freedmen, black landowners, and families who had carved out a life despite everything that tried to crush them. And for a time, Erie thrived, until the river rose. In 1923, after a string of mysterious floods, the town was officially abandoned. The last residents packed what they could and left. Some said the river was cursed. Others believed Erie had become a target, politically, economically, and racially. But no one could explain why it happened so fast, or why so little of it was recorded. Today, if you search the Alabama State Archives, Erie is barely mentioned. Maps from the early 1900s list it. Maps from the 1930s erase it. Historical registries offer only one or two vague lines, and the files that do exist. Some of them have vanished completely, but Erie never really went away. When the river runs low, especially during drought years, pieces of the town reappear. Stone steps, rusted street signs, half-buried foundations rising from the mud. Divers have reported doors that lead to nowhere. One described a structure like a schoolhouse, with intact windows, and something tapping inside. In 2011, a kayaker passing through the area spotted light flickering under the surface. He assumed it was reflection, until he realized the light was coming from below. He paddled closer. The light disappeared, and the water turned cold. Local fishermen talk about strange echoes under the bridge, sounds that bounce back when no one speaks. One night, a man camping near the river said he heard the clatter of footsteps across dry leaves, but the forest was flooded. He got up, looked out at the water, and saw a woman standing ankle-deep where there was no ground. She didn't move, didn't speak. She just watched. Older residents of Greene County say Erie never had a proper goodbye. No ceremony, no relocation. Just families forced to leave, homes bulldozed or left to rot, and the water rising in slow, silent waves. Some believe what's left of Erie is still under there. Not just bricks or beams, but something else. Something that didn't want to leave, and then there's the sound. In 2019, a University of Alabama field team deployed underwater microphones in the Warrior River to study sediment movement. For 3 nights in a row, the sensors picked up a low-frequency hum. Not mechanical, not natural. Just a deep, almost rhythmic pulse coming from the riverbed near the original coordinates of Erie. It wasn't heard again after the equipment was retrieved, and no explanation was ever published. Whatever happened in Erie wasn't just a flood, and the river doesn't just hide the town, it remembers it. They say rivers cleanse, but sometimes they cover. Some towns are buried by rivers, others vanish without a splash. But something in these woods is still moving, and it's not looking for help, it's looking for silence. The Curse of Bill Sketter, the hole that never stays filled. In Butler County, Alabama, a few miles off a county road, no one seems to remember paving. There's a stretch of pine forest where nothing ever quite settles. It's where the ground doesn't hold, where the trees won't grow right, and where a single hole has swallowed everything that tried to cover it. They call it the Sketter Pit. The name comes from a man, Bill Sketter, who lived in the area in the mid-1800s. He was a farmer, or at least that's what the records say, but locals say he was something else. Solitary, quiet, strange. And what he farmed wasn't crops. According to land deeds from 1857, Bill owned a narrow plot on the edge of what's now Conecuh National Forest. Census records show no family, no workers, but oral histories from descendants in nearby communities say people went missing around those woods, and that when the sheriff finally came to investigate in 1864, all they found was a shack and a hole. The reports don't say how deep it was, but they say what was around it: blood in the soil, tools that had no business being there, and a rope that went down and didn't come back up. The land was seized and abandoned. For years, no one went near it. Then, in the 1930s, A timber company tried to develop the area. They found the hole, tried to fill it with debris, then concrete, then reinforced steel. Each time they came back the next morning, and it was empty. The concrete had cracked, the beams had vanished. Even the trees they pushed into it were gone without a trace. They shut down operations. Quietly. In the 1970s, a group of local teens, unaware of the history, stumbled on the hole while hiking. One of them, Alan T., later wrote about it. There was no smell, no sound, no echo. Just this circle in the dirt like it had been burned clean. We threw in rocks, never heard them hit. One of the boys leaned too far over the edge. He didn't fall, but his shoe did. They waited 5 minutes, never heard a sound. When they returned the next day, the hole was gone. Not filled, not covered, gone. But a week later, Alan said it reappeared, in a slightly different spot, just 20 feet away. Same size, same shape, like it moved. Over the decades, attempts to mark the hole's location have failed. Coordinates change. GPS scrambles. A university research team in 2008 placed a soil sensor inside the depression. It lost signal within seconds. When they returned to retrieve it, the sensor was gone. But in its place was a dead deer, perfectly intact. No wounds, no blood, just dead. Eyes wide open, facing the pit, facing. Some believe the ground is unstable, a sinkhole system, but no geological data supports that, and there's no limestone or karst in the area. Others say it's a natural vent, though thermal scans show nothing unusual. No heat, no cold, just nothing. The Sketter pit doesn't stay in one place, and it doesn't stay closed. Some hunters say they've seen it glow faintly at night. Others say it hums when the wind dies down. And there are a few who won't speak on camera, but they all say the same thing. When you stand near it, you feel like something under you is listening. No official map lists the pit, but some versions of old Forest Service charts show odd, circular gaps in the tree lines, not labeled, not explained, just empty. And the strangest thing, the land deed for Bill Sketter's farm still exists, still on record, still valid, but no one's claimed it in over 150 years. You can cover a hole, you can bless the ground, but some places don't want to stay shut, because what's beneath might not be done yet. Rocky Hill Castle, the House of Shadows. Rocky Hill Castle was once a symbol of power, a towering Greek revival mansion standing on a hill outside Cortland, Alabama, surrounded by cotton fields, slave quarters, and whispers that never stopped. Built in the 1820s by a wealthy planter named James Saunders, the house was meant to project status. Instead, it became something else entirely. Locals say the ground was wrong before the first brick was ever laid. Cherokee hunters avoided the hill. Later, enslaved workers refused to sleep on the property. Some even begged to be relocated to the fields. They said the trees watched them. They said the house breathed. But Saunders kept building. By 1850, the estate was complete. Marble floors, spiral staircases, gaslight chandeliers, and a family crypt hidden beneath the west wing. The house thrived until it didn't. During the Civil War, Confederate soldiers used Rocky Hill as a command post. That's when the sounds began. Footsteps in empty halls, doors slamming with no wind, and on more than one occasion, soldiers reporting a man in black walking up the stairs, only to vanish into a wall. After the war, the house passed through several owners, and every one of them left, fast. In 1903, a wealthy businessman from Montgomery bought the property with plans to restore it. He hired laborers, contractors, and caretakers. Within 6 weeks, all of them quit. One worker, in a newspaper interview from 1904, described a woman standing at the top of the stairs every night at 2 a.m. She didn't move, didn't speak, but her face wasn't human. He said her mouth was too wide, and her eyes empty. By the 1920s, the house was abandoned, and that's when the legends deepened. Teenagers dared each other to enter. One group in 1936 claimed they found candles burning inside, though no one had entered for years. Another in 1951 reported seeing a figure crawling across the ceiling in the library. Police found their flashlight just inside the door, still on. The boys were found hiding 2 miles away, in the woods. One of them never spoke again. Then there's the shadow. Every witness who's entered Rocky Hill Castle reports it. Not a ghost, not a figure, but a shape, darker than night, taller than any man, that stands at the end of the hall and waits. It doesn't move, doesn't attack. It just watches. People say it's not part of the house. It is the house. In 1961, after years of decay and fires, Rocky Hill Castle was torn down, demolished. But that didn't stop it. Today, drivers on Highway 20 say they see it, just for a moment, the silhouette of a mansion at the top of the hill, always at dusk, always gone by nightfall. And more than one hiker has found stone steps in the grass and leading to nothing, leading up to where the house used to be. The land is still empty, no homes, no fences, just wind, trees, and something pacing. And here's what chills historians the most: the Saunders family crypt. Never found. They demolished the mansion, but they never touched what was underneath. They say the house is empty, that no one lives there. But what if the house doesn't need to be lived in, to still be watching? The Vanishing Tomb of Eliza Battle. On March 1, 1858, the steamboat Eliza Battle set out along the Tombigbee River, its decks loaded with wealthy passengers, cotton and pride. It was one of the grandest vessels in the South, tall, ornate, a floating symbol of power. But that night, deep in the black water near Pennington, Alabama, it burned. The fire started below deck, likely sparked by the cotton itself. Within minutes, the boat was an inferno, flames licking the sky, passengers screaming as they leapt into the icy current. Some made it to shore, more than 30 didn't. Those who drowned were buried in simple graves along the riverbanks, but several victims were never found. And soon after, something strange began. Local fishermen started reporting a boat appearing in the fog. A big one, old, silent. Then, the smell of smoke, the crack of wood, and suddenly, fire. A steamboat in flames, drifting upriver, glowing orange with no sound except distant screams. They called it a mirage. Then the sightings spread, dockhands, hunters, travelers crossing the bridge at night. Each time, the same vision, a fire on the water, with no heat, no wake, and no survivors. In 1915, a man named Walter Sims tried to disprove the story. He went camping near the site where the Eliza Battle sank, brought a journal, a compass, and a long-range lantern. That night, he wrote only one entry: "There's a light on the river, it's not mine." His body was found 2 days later, slumped beside the water, lungs full but no bruises, no struggle. His compass was melted. In the 1970s, sonar teams from the University of Alabama attempted to locate the wreckage. They found a structure, metallic, hollow, but when they returned the following week with diving gear, it was gone. Scans showed clean riverbed, as if the river refused to give it back. And here's where the story gets colder. In 2003, the Clark County Historical Society tried to relocate one of the mass graves for preservation. When the team arrived with equipment and permits, the plot was empty. No wood, no remains, just scorched soil, frozen hard, even in July. Some believe the Eliza Battle is a river ghost, doomed to repeat its last night. Others say something aboard that boat was never meant to burn, and never got buried. But those who've seen it, those who've heard the piano music in the fog, or watched shadows dance across the water, they'll tell you one thing: the Eliza Battle didn't sink. It waits, and when the air drops low and the wind turns back toward the trees, you'll see it again. The Deathlights in the Drish House Tower. In Tuscaloosa, Alabama, there's a mansion that was supposed to be a dream home, a symbol of wealth and permanence. Instead, it became a warning, and the tower at the top still glows with something no one can explain. The Drish House was built in 1837 by Dr. John Drish, a wealthy physician and planter with a taste for grand design and strict control. He married Sarah Owen McKinney, a widowed heiress. Together, they built a life of luxury, discipline, and secrets. The house was massive, 2 floors, dozens of rooms, a spiral staircase, and towering above it all, a narrow windowed cupola. Locals called it the Widow's Watch. But after what happened, they started calling it something else. In 1867, John Drish died. Some say from a fall down the stairs. Others suggest a heart attack or something darker. But it was what happened after his death that set the house's legend on fire. Sarah Drish never recovered. She became obsessed with rituals, insisted on candlelit vigils, kept his body in the parlor for days, and ordered that when she died, the exact same candles used at John's funeral be relit at hers. But when she passed years later, her caretakers couldn't find the candles. The ritual was broken. That night, the lights began. People walking near the Drish house reported seeing a faint orange glow flickering in the top tower. Sometimes just before storms, sometimes after midnight, always when no one was inside. Neighbors thought it was kids, until police were called and found the house completely empty. No footprints, no matches, no wiring. Over the years, dozens of reports piled up. In 1901, a fire brigade was dispatched after someone swore the tower was engulfed in flames. But when they arrived, no fire, not even heat. One officer claimed the light blinked off the moment he stepped through the gate, and when he looked up, he saw something, someone, standing behind the glass, just staring. In 1932, a group of students from the nearby women's college dared each other to spend the night inside. They lasted 1 hour. They said the room was freezing, and that the light didn't just glow, it pulsed. One girl later told her roommate she saw a pair of hands pressed against the window from the inside. When asked why she didn't scream, she just said, "They were hers, I know it." Sarah Drish was buried without her ritual, and some believe the lights are her soul, still searching for that final moment of peace. Others think something was opened when the candles weren't lit, that the light isn't mourning, it's warning. In 2012, the Drish house was renovated into an event venue, but even today staff report strange activity in the tower. Lights on security cameras that don't appear in person, footsteps overhead when the attic is locked, and one guest who claimed to see a woman in smoke reflected in the bathroom mirror. The tower still stands, the light still flickers, and when the air is dry and the night is still, it burns just a little brighter. Lights flicker, towers crumble, but grief finds a way to stay lit, and sometimes the flame isn't mourning, it's warning. The hidden base below Raymer, Montgomery County. Some things stay buried for a reason. Others are buried too late. Just south of Montgomery in the quiet woods near the small town of Raymer, Alabama, there's a patch of forest that hums when it shouldn't. No power lines, no factories, but the air feels charged. And the ground vibrates. It started with campers. In the early 1990s, hikers began reporting strange mechanical sounds late at night beneath their tents, not animals. Not footsteps, but something deeper, like turbines. Some described faint pulses under their feet. Others said they felt the ground shift, not from earthquakes, but like something big was turning underground. One camper, a military veteran, said, "That wasn't nature, that was engineered." No one believed them. Until 1997, when a pair of off-road bikers crashed through a fence near a decommissioned WT radio tower. They said they found a clearing with a steel door set into the dirt, seamless, locked, and cold to the touch. The next morning, they returned with friends, but the door was gone. In its place, it's fresh sod, no tracks, as if the ground had been replaced overnight. Local officials denied any government presence in the area, but through FOIA requests and historical maps, something strange came to light. During WT2, a temporary radio facility was installed near Raymer, listed under the Signal Corps as a communication relay site. It was supposed to be dismantled in 1946, but in internal documents from 1952, redacted but partially visible, there's a single note: subsurface conduit expansion completed. Raymer grid off record. Refer to 4B Alpha. 4B Alpha doesn't appear on any public index, but there are photos from the 1960s showing trucks hauling equipment to the edge of the property, guarded by men in unmarked uniforms. In 2008, a local land surveyor reported a sudden interference zone near County Road 94. His GPS failed, his compass spun, and when he took a core sample near a flat ridge, he hit metal. He wasn't allowed to return. Residents nearby have started sharing quiet stories of low humming at night that rattles windows but never makes the news. Of strange trucks without plates parking at the tree line, then disappearing before sunrise, of deer that won't go near certain hills. Some believe it's Cold War infrastructure. Others think it's connected to biological experiments from Fort McClellan, relocated and buried. But the most disturbing theory, that it was a test, a prototype of something larger, a facility designed to never be found source, unless you already knew it was there. And the few who claim to have stood above it say one thing in common: the ground feels hollow, but the silence below doesn't feel empty. These stories aren't just whispers. They're reports, coordinates, names burned into public record and still avoided today. So the next time you drive through a quiet southern town, ask yourself, is this place forgotten or is it hiding something? Comment which state we should explore next, and watch the full playlist of other states we've already uncovered, because not everything buried stays that way.